Welcome to the Fellaship podcast, a podcast for us, by us. On each episode, we invite a couple of the fellas from different social, economic, and professional backgrounds to come on to discuss a variety of topics ranging from relationships, finances, entrepreneurship, social justice, politics, and more. No topic is off limits and no topic is too controversial. I'm your host, Terry D. Swain, and I am joined today by a few of the fellas, James Brown, Chu, and T. Lundy. So, I like to open with an icebreaker that's relevant to the topic. So, I'm going to say a word or phrase, and I want you guys, or you fellas, to tell me in 30 seconds or less what thoughts come to your mind. So, we'll start with you first, James. Man cave.
In 30 seconds left, when I think of man cave, that's my piece. That's where I go to unwind and get my thoughts together. That's what I see it as.
Okay. All right, nice. So, Chu, man of the house.
King, my domain, where I make the rules, enforce the rules, respect. I have the last word, protector.
All right. I like it a lot. And T. Lundy, this word was termed by, I believe, T.D. Jakes, but he motions.
The emotions that a man feels. You know, it's normally when we think of emotions, we think of it as a feminine thing. But when you say he motions, it's all the same. But it's us as men what we feel. Yeah. That's what I think of when I think of that word.
Okay. All right then. So our discussion topic for tonight's episode is the mental man cave. Men are thinkers. We internalize a lot of our thoughts and feelings instead of expressing them freely, like women. We often deal with our emotions and issues privately and quietly within ourselves. Though we use this method to think through problems and also our mechanism to cope with situations and circumstances, there is a danger that lurks in the silence and solitude. My hope is that something will be said in this episode that can help us uncover and offer some insight and philosophies that can help men to manage their thoughts, emotions, and actions. So I'm going to start with this. I wrote a book called The Quiet Devil. And there's a chapter in this book titled The Corner of the Rooftop. Two different parts to it. I talk about the man cave, but I talk about it from a biblical perspective where I use the story of Joseph and Mary. Joseph was about to divorce Mary, will break off the engagement privately in his mind. Nobody else knew what he was going to do. And Mary was pregnant through immaculate conception. So Joseph didn't have anything to do with the conception of this child. And as a man, I'm thinking about what he's dealing with, where he goes to deal with that when he knows everybody in town is talking about him and when his wife says, this is not my husband's child that I'm pregnant with.
And he already was thinking about leaving?
Yeah.
He was already thinking about leaving.
And that's what the Bible says within himself. Right. He thought this. So now, as the story progresses, we know that an angel came in, talked to him, and helped him change his mind. But where he was at, he was going to just back up out of it. So I liken that to also David, who went on the rooftop. And while he was on the rooftop, he looked out and he saw Bathsheba. Now that rooftop also represents the man cave. Y'all stay with me just for a second. When we look at the houses, the way they were built back in biblical time, and when the scripture says it is better for a man to dwell in the corner of a rooftop than in an entire house with a nagging woman, that rooftop is just not like the corner of the house. It's not inside the house. It was on top of the house. Special place. The only place he could go because the rooftop was flat. That was the only place that a man at that time could go and just find his solace. Now, again, you talked earlier about that being a place of peace. You said that being a place of battle. And we see that in both of these. In that scripture, if he withdraws himself, goes to the rooftop, he finds peace. But at the same time, David went to the rooftop, was supposed to be at war. He was out of position. He saw Bathsheba. Boom. He was filled with lust, enticed, called her to himself, ended up having to do a whole lot of crazy stuff behind that decision. So let's start talking from what Joseph was going through first. as a man, can you imagine or talk or give some insight on what your thoughts was as far as what was going through Joseph's mind as a man dealing with the weight of his situation and him not discussing it with anyone, and he was about to privately just dip on the whole situation?
As a man, I can honestly say if I were in that situation, I would be questioning that. I would be like, she's lying to me, she's betrayed me, and she don't want me to find out. But as also a man, our job is to protect, provide, and profess. So under the protection part of that, I'm like, I don't want to embarrass her, but I know what's really going on. I'm fit to be out of this situation. So that's where I would be with it if I was in Joseph's situation.
Okay.
So we talk about culture, right? So we can't understand. It's not 1-to-1, right? So we're talking about adultery. The woman gets stoned. Like there's consequences for that back in the day. So I think he weighed the gravity.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah,
I
he
just
weighed.
want to hone in on that just really quick. I don't want you to lose your thought. But I want because I know people are listening.
Yeah.
So you're saying that in his mind, just like he said, he's still thinking about protecting them, even though he wants out. He's already made his decision, but there are consequences to this woman and this child that he's leaving behind.
Yeah. So I think on one hand he's concerned about people knowing about it, but one, for her safety, that culture that's stone you, and secondly, it's shameful. Yeah. It's the shame on him and the disgrace and all that would happen, right? So I think the conflict was not all altruistic. I think he's trying to just get away from the problem before it becomes a problem. But there's death. Death is an option in that and that culture at that time for this event, right? So
some brothers would be so angry at the situation that they would, I don't care if she died.
That's why I was getting ready to go. Not even that, but my first words was powerful mind.
Yeah.
That man was chosen for his woman to get pregnant, not by him.
Come on, man.
And God knew it'll be all right in that situation with him.
Right.
He'll be able to handle it. That's a powerful mind right there.
Right.
That man had to be blessed with a powerful mind to be able to handle it and say, let me before I take action. Like I wrote in my book about taking action and be slow to take action.
Right. Yeah.
Always be slow to take action before you do anything. Take time and spend some time up here in your mental man cave. Yeah. Spend time up there. So he had to spend a lot of time up there looking around, people laughing at him. And he's like, I'm not even worrying about it. Because he had to have a powerful mind. So that's what I'm originally thinking in that situation. Could I do it? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But if I had to be in that situation, I was chosen to be in that situation.
And he got there eventually, but he didn't start there.
Right. Because he was already out the door. He was already out the door.
About to leave this situation.
Now, right there, he had already checked out.
Yeah.
He was just waiting on the opportunity. But I think about this: how many men are in situations because a woman, she gonna tell you, I'm out of here, I'm leaving you. You know what I'm saying? We gotta prepare for that.
Well,
but a man, he's already checked out before he checks out.
They say a woman checks out before she checks out. But a woman is dropping hints and telling you everything all the time. Yeah. A man is living in here, shaking his head, going to work every day, grinning and bearing it. Yep. And he hasn't, I think he has, if you think about it, he had more choices to make, like you said. He thought about the safety of his family. If he left her, what would happen to her? What would happen to the kid, and so forth. I think a man has more to think about and internalizes more than a woman could ever. I do think women are smarter than men because men are more egotistical, and I think that's I always tell men, put your ego in your pocket. You don't really need it until you need it. Not saying don't have it, but when you put it in your pocket, you got a clearer thought. You can think clearer and make better decisions. That's why women can make amazing decisions. But in that, he had to have a powerful mind, and he had to sit her down at some point and say, look, this is what I'm going through, and I need you to know.
Did they have conversations? That's one thing I think about, too.
Yeah. So the one thing my wife told me is like, God only gave us what we need to know about a certain situation, right? So we're here debating what we would do if we're in that situation.
You don't know until you're in it.
You don't know, right? And I think it's powerful that you said a mind, right? So in that situation, he had checked out. All intents and purposes, from what we know.
Yeah. Right.
He had checked out and he was looking for a way to do it, right?
That's right.
And
timing.
And so That's another thing I said in the group today earlier. Is like we only know what we know. That's something we learned in the military called the unknown unknowns. You cannot plan for the unknown unknowns. It's nothing. You would plan yourself to death.
Right.
So until you know, we know what we would do in a situation that we've been through if we 2020 it, right?
Right.
But we don't know what we'll do with a new situation that shows up. We think we do, but we don't know. Because it could be a different person, a different time, a different scenario, different circumstance. Because things that you would fight over at 18 are things at 40. You're like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Right. So you don't know, So we 2020 right now, but a lot of us know where we have checked out in our minds, like you were saying, about something.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where he would be at that point, because it was an impossible situation.
Yeah.
I either go with this lady who just said, who was supposed to be a virgin, but she's pregnant, and I know it's not mine.
Is that really the situation?
Yes, exactly. So right now his mind is in, I'm thinking different places. So him saying, yeah,
hanging around the house, a little hard. Yeah. And I noticed she spent some time at the baker, going through all those scenarios in his mind. That's a real thing.
Yeah. And then to be honest, we do the same thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I put in myself in his situation. Like, Paul said, he said, I can only speak to things I've seen and heard, and putting myself in his situation with this mindset right now, I would honestly be like, this ain't adding up. The math ain't mathing right now. She's talking about she's pregnant by God. And everybody can use that excuse. If that be the case, I wouldn't go for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's in turmoil.
Yeah.
Turmoil. I mean, we read, so one time, and I don't mean to go off subject, someone was like, and the scripture, but they were talking about the disciples. What scripture were they? What is the word of God, if not the Torah, right? Okay, the people during the Torah, what were they reading, right? So we have the opportunity and all the stuff to look at their lives, like David, for example. Yeah. We castigate David at every second we can. Oh, he was a great king, but man, adulterer. Like, we don't know.
You don't know.
No.
We do not know what. They just said he was walking up on the rooftop. He saw,
But my thoughts on that, and we'll get into it in a minute, because I don't think he just happened upon that she was being naked bathing. You're not telling me he had peeped that long before he went up there.
Oh, yeah. She go out there every day at 5 o'clock.
And she had peeped him watching. Man, listen.
Listen, he knew.
I go to a different
That's why
place.
He was like, go ahead to battle. Go to war.
I'll meet y'all there.
So I put it in a group, right? First you look, then you linger, then you're lost.
Yeah.
You're lost, then you lose.
Yeah. In that order.
Look, linger, lust, and then you lose.
Yeah.
But even in all of that, she outsmarted you because she walked across you.
Yeah.
She knew what you was going to do.
She knew it. Yeah.
She said, I need some attention.
Yeah. And that's how women. That's how women know the power of a lure. They know not to even look at you, but know you're looking at them. You know what I'm saying? It's like they know.
Not to go so far off, but my just personal thought process. This is my own personal study. You gotta have like blinders on in life. You know what I mean? Because one thing we have, like men, we go out, and I'm not saying women don't work for money, but that's one of our things. We buy nice cars to attract a woman. We buy a house to attract a woman. We buy jewelry to attract a woman. And that's something that's in us. We've done it for eons. We don't have to. Some of us don't, but that's what the real case is. So that's what we do to get women. When a woman wants a man, she says, let me put on the nicest outfit. Let me do my hair. Let me put on some lipstick. Let me smell good. She ain't going to get a job. You know what I mean? She's going to be enticing. And that's what she's really good at wooing a man. You know what I mean? And he out there building a house. Let me see if I can build 5 more of these. Right. She gonna love me. You know what I mean? And then he runs up on it. So that's
how we have the world and everything in it.
James Brown said it.
Yeah. So I want to read this real quick. So in this chapter, I said he talking about Joseph. He just simply wrestled with his concealed thoughts within himself. He did not talk to anyone about the dark thoughts he was having. He did not seek counseling or advice from anyone about what he should do. He carried the weight of his emotions and inner turmoil alone. And like Joseph, there are countless men right now who are physically present in their home with their wife and children, living what seems to be a normal life, while silently contemplating divorce. They're not just contemplating divorce, they're also quietly and privately planning how they are going to carry it out. They're strategizing a path of escape, and while there are countless spouses who are on the edge of giving up and walking away from their marriage and family, there are just as many who have already walked away. Men and women who have suddenly, without notice, abandoned their spouses unexpectedly unexpectedly. So, do you believe that men walk away in their minds long before they ever walk away in reality?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I honestly don't think it's just a man thing. Not to go off topic.
Yeah.
I think this is a personal thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think anybody in those situations, men or women, you know, they check out at a certain point long before they physically do it.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's steps. So there's a word that I use in our group called calculus, right? Everybody's calculus is different, right? You ever wonder why, you know, on the outside, we're looking at an abusive relationship. It's clear. It's black and white to us.
You see it.
But for the person in there, it's gray. There's so many things. Oh, he did that. She did this. Well, the kids, the house. Oh, what will my parents say? What would the calculus is different for everybody.
Like Joseph, right?
Yeah.
Right. So exactly. So I agree with T. Lundy in saying that I think it's not a man woman thing, but that there's a calculus that makes a person stay or leave.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think people before they exit you're mentally done, because I think it has to be mental before it becomes final. Like, you can leave physically, but if you're there mentally, you're coming back.
Yeah.
Right? Abusive relationships, ergo, abusive relationships. But if your mind is gone, then it doesn't matter. You can leave whatever. You don't care. You're out. So I think, yes, the mind has to be gone first before.
I got another question. So, looking at the scenario with Joseph, and I know at some point, I believe at some point, he would have had to try and have a conversation with Mary. And I'm thinking, just in my mind, how that conversation would go, and him trying to, like, I can't compete with God, or what God has said, or what God has done, if this is truly the case. Mary knows it. She's the only one that knows it, that she hadn't been with anyone else. And she knows that, God miraculously impregnated her. So for him to try and have that conversation with her, it kind of borderlines on the conversation we've had in the group chat. When a woman feels she is right about something, there's really, I don't care if she knows she's wrong and she's arguing. To a certain degree, women, they're not going to, it's like they don't want to lose an argument. They don't want to give in to that. And not saying that was Mary's case, but I'm just saying, kind of generalizing that. But how do you guys feel about when a man wants to have have conversations, not arguments, not disputes, not who's right and who's wrong, but wanting to talk something through, and we are block-to-block thinkers. So when we talk and we converse and we have discussions, and whether it's an argument too, we move block to block. Let's get off this block before we go to the next one. But a woman, man, she will talk all around and go here and there. You know what I'm saying? So I guess I'm saying within what do you imagine that conversation would have been like if Joseph was trying to talk to Mary about what he was going through, but he knew he couldn't just come out and say, I'm thinking about leaving.
I seen this meme, and it's still a hilarious thing to me. And I think this is how he had to approach his own mind before he approached her. It says, never play chess with a pigeon. Because the pigeon is just going to walk around the board with its chest poked out, strut around, and use the bathroom all over the place like it won anyway. So I was like, wow, you're right. And that's exactly what a pigeon's going to do. So you can never win arguments with everybody, especially it's harder to win an argument with women. I recently learned something because I've been in a situation where I was like, I'm checking out. You know what I mean? But before I did it, I had to check me first.
Yeah, right.
I had to check me first. So I think I'm solution-based. Anytime I find a problem, I try to find the best way to deal with the problem. And I be reasonable. Like I said, I always check myself first. So saying in that situation, when you do have to sit down and talk, I had to sit down and talk with my wife at some point, and I said, I just paid attention to everything she was saying, everything I was wrong about, everything she wasn't wrong about, and everything. And all I did, I kept mental notes. I had to be tactful about it. I had to not be angry about it. I had to not yell at her. I had to not get upset, which was extremely hard. You know what I mean? But because I've done it before.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you keep beating your head against the wall? You know, what is it, doing the same thing over and over again? And insanity. So I said, I don't want to be insane. You know, so then I said, look, you're going to flip this whole conversation on me. As soon as I tell you how I feel, you're going to flip it on me, and this is why men don't like to express themselves, because they don't like to feel bad. They don't like to get their feelings hurt. Men aren't good at getting their feelings hurt. Me, I learned how to not be so emotional and put my emotions and my ego in my pocket. I don't mind losing if I lose and learn a lesson. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's the way I handle life. That's the way I think about it, because I see a lot of men that have to beat up their women because they're not beating up their women because they're bad people. Because they're frustrated and their feelings are hurt and they can't solve the problem. And she's saying, I didn't do that. Wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. He's been telling her for years, and he's just putting up with her because he's just being like this man.
Yeah. I
got to stick with you. There's no way no man in the world going to say, you're pregnant, not by me. And who did it? Oh, God did it.
Yeah.
He was chosen. You know what I'm saying? He had to be chosen. God said, he'll be able to handle it. I know. I made this man. I know he'll be able to handle it. Most of us wouldn't be able to. So in that situation, and not to talk so long, but I always, when I sit down and had to talk to my woman, I didn't know I would win with my tactic. But my tactic was showing her who she is and letting her know that I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. But she has to know who she is and tell me she's okay with it. And basically the way I did it is, hey, remember when you did this and said this? I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm just saying when you do this, it hurts me. And I can be hurt too. Stop thinking that I got to walk around and not be hurt. It hurts. And that's why I go off. Yeah, I have to tell you, there's no more. There should be a new set of men. The men that say, it's okay for me to be emotional. It's okay for me to say, hey, my feelings are hurt. You hurt my feelings. I can even do it with men. Hey, bro, we cool and everything, but what you said, that wasn't all right. Man, I didn't even know. My sister called me the other day over something I said one night. And she said, man, James, I thought you... No. I had to explain what happened, and I said I would never do that. And I apologized. I'm not too good to apologize because I am a man with feelings, and I know how it feels on the inside, and I know what happens if I keep it in here. Yeah. So why is that a solution? So he had to sit down at some point and talk to her, but he had to be tactful about how he did it. Yeah. And that's the only way it would have worked, or either it's because God said he'll work it out. Yeah. And that's probably how he did it.
So culturally, right, we have the context, cultures. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in, Africa, right? And I saw more of a submissive type woman, right? And so what my dad said was law, pretty much. And but I could hear them argue sometimes, but it always, it was no fighting or nothing like that. So I see a culture like that where it wasn't too much talk back, right? It's a difficult thing. I think God had to appear him in a dream. I think he appeared to Joseph in a dream, and that's what squashed that, right?
Yeah. Right. Angel came.
So because again,
he didn't start
there, right? So
he was hold up, intervene.
Yeah. So to answer that question, I think I'll say context matters, right? If we've been in places where, especially for me, where I did not start. Me and my wife, we were enemy. It was like Mortal Kombat, right? First 5-6 years, well, maybe the first 18 months was great, but then it was Mortal Kombat, right? So now we're in our 20th year, and we had that rough year last year. Yeah. We had that rough year last year, and what I learned in that, and we talk about it a lot, it starts with me and what I'm willing to. What do I want to sacrifice now for what I want more? Right, that's the battle for me in my head, right? And there is a place where I have to talk to her about how I feel, but it's not that moment where I probably don't have a good command of my emotions. It's not there, right?
I call it circling back.
Yeah.
I'll circle back.
So what I've found out in the last, and this is like brand new to me, is that where you say you don't like to argue, I'm the guy. Yeah. Like
Bring it on.
I have it. Like I don't go into a fight unless my weapons are sharp, right? And when I go in there, I'm not doing surgical strikes. I'm taking down a whole village, right? And so one of our issues was I don't lose arguments. I don't go into an argument I'm going to lose, right? So that's me. So now is I ask myself, what is the win here?
That's right.
What is the win here? I mean, it's up to so a dissonance in my head. Like just to give you if somebody says a statement that is inaccurate, I can't let it go. I'm like, no, that's incorrect. So my wife could say something now, and I'm like, that is wrong. I think it.
Right.
And I just
but you
hug.
don't go to war.
Yeah, it's not because for me, what I want more is this woman that I love for us to have a better relationship and work. But then, jokingly later on, I might be like, you can't even spell, or just I'll throw that in there, right? But again, it's maturity, it's growth, it's cultural. So I think I say all that to say it's nuance. I think, but in his situation, God had to intervene because he was already
right.
He was done. He was done. It was going to happen. I don't think there was going to be an argument. It's going to be like, he said, like, Mary, you came with 3 flip-flops and a blanket.
Yeah. And he said all he was going to say.
Yeah. So I believe that's how that would have ended.
Yeah. I heard it said like this: you negatively assume if you don't have facts to support your conclusion. So I can only go by what I know that that was in that Bible that Joseph did, and I think like right now I'm thinking, but he checked out.
Yeah,
God had to intervene,
and
that's when he backed off of his. So how that conversation went, I think he checked out. I think it was like, I'm out of here. And I think when he slept on it, God intervened, and then he was like, okay, wait, let me back off of what I wanted to do.
Did you hear what you just said?
Yeah.
He slept on it.
Yeah.
And that's what we as men got to do. That's why I said about circling back. Like today, the group chat, a lot of times when we jump in the group chat, it's from something we're experiencing.
Yeah.
And me and my wife, we're in a great place, but there are still things that come up.
Yeah.
And, and I'm like,
yeah.
That ain't right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I chose in that moment to say, let me go to the group chat instead of taking this to her. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I can always circle back. I live with you.
Right.
And I'm going to catch you when you're in the best moment. You may be in there taking because she loves to take these bubble baths. Yeah. You taking a bubble bath, and I just pull up a chair right next to the.
Yeah.
You remember the other day?
Yeah.
She don't even remember.
Hit you off guard.
Yeah. What you talking about? Okay, let me help remind you. Remember this day, blase, this happened. I just wanted to take this time to talk about it because if I'd have talked about it then. Yeah. But in the moment, I don't say anything. I'm like you. I just back up when I see that this is not the space for this.
Yeah.
Now,
because the right thing can be done at the wrong time.
The wrong time is everything.
I'm about to bother your head on this one. All right, and I do the same thing. I got to circle back around. I got to get my thoughts together because she can probably beat me. She's works for a law firm. She doesn't do no paperwork and make arguments all day.
Chess. She plays chess, not checkers.
Yeah, and I taught her how to play chess. What's wrong with me? You know what I mean? But she thinks that way, and I don't mind it. I love her. She's my partner. But what if, as men, when we're off guard, sometimes instead of circling back around, you can not win, but solve the problem in the moment that she has the problem. Because what happens a lot of time with women, and maybe not, I know my woman is just like every other woman, they're women. So she says to me, I circled back around one time. Then I circled back around 2 times. We're good at circling a conversation because she'll forget, but we talk a lot through text so that we have it.
Yeah.
Remember you said this? You know what I mean? Because I'll go to her and be like, remember when you did that? I don't remember. I didn't do that. Yeah. I didn't say that. I can't call her a liar. All I got to do is be like, man, I should have got it right then and there. You know what I mean? So it's like, as a man, and we all get our tempers and we all got to step back from a situation, can we go through it right then and there, still be tactful, and still get her to understand or solve X?
I think yes.
Yeah.
And I say that because, the Bible says a soft answer turns away wrath. So I think it's how you do it. Yeah. Like I'm not for the cursing, the arguing, the screaming and shouting and stuff like. If I'm going to be doing that, it's not the time to have a conversation.
Right, absolutely.
But I think as men in the moment, if something is getting, you disagree with something, I think if you approach it right, you're talking with the right rate, tone, volume. Right. You're not screaming at her. You're not cursing and raising Cain, as they would say. And you calmly say, hey, well, here's how I see it. And you talk it in a way that they can receive it. I believe, yes.
It becomes conversation rather than just a debate.
Be resolved in that moment. But that also takes a maturity because you have to set aside your pride. Because when pride gets in the way, that's when you want to. I want to raise my voice and show I'm the man.
Because I'm the man and I'm right all the time.
Right? Yeah. No. That's not true. Nobody's right all the time.
Absolutely.
Not man, not woman.
Right.
Now, a person can think they're right all the time, but I think that's a great question. I think that for me, it's checking the temperature before you engage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you know where you are mentally, and then you know where they are, the time, I think all of that goes into play. For me, there are times where I have to deal with situations in the moment, and I don't care about winning or losing. And there are even times where I don't even care about making a point if it's valid. There's just sometimes that honestly, as a man, I have to flex my leadership to say that, because certain things I can allow to slide for a long time, and I can notice you may start acting or saying things that, I'm not even going to use that because that would have definitely sounded bad. But in a sense, I'll allow things to happen where it begins to get too comfortable for you. And I have to remind you of what my position is.
Yeah.
And I do that sometimes purposely with only that intent. I'm not trying to win an argument. I'm trying to make no type of point. I'm just trying to reel you back into the fact that you really getting a little too loose with how you're beginning to talk or act in a situation. So that's just me. But I think every situation is different. But there are some times where I just have to just be the man.
And not to get too heavy on relationships or anything, but in saying that, if I tell my wife that we partners, she has a role to play and I have a role to play.
That's it, man.
I'm not in charge of her. I don't own her. I don't own her. We're not in battle with each other. However, I'm gonna do my job. Do yours. Kids got a job to do. They should do theirs. You know what I mean? We all have roles to play. Like for instance, if you got an old school watch, there's a cog in it. There's a bunch of different cogs in it, and if one piece don't work, it all falls apart.
Right.
I need every piece to work well.
Yeah.
Now, I am the one that protects everybody in the home. That's my job. I'm not your boss.
Right.
You know what I mean? Please don't look at me like that because I want you to I want you to see me as equal to you. I just got a different job to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Your
Now,
position.
for instance, like where you come from, it's more of I know that kind of culture, and to me, like I've seen things where my woman kind of submitted to me, and later on, I see resentment, and she's mad anyway that she had to do it, but she did it because she's my wife, and she thinks that's what a wife's supposed to do. Then I had to come back and say, let's not do it like that. Let's find a way to be in the middle, and you respect me enough to do what I need you to do for me, rather than just you got to do it because I'm your husband. You know what I mean?
Well, you all up in our group chat, but go ahead.
Yeah, so y'all got to throw me in there, man.
Yeah.
Definitely throw me in there because I got
Because we were
teenagers.
talking about that today. We were discussing it.
So we've talked about this ad nauseum. We talk about this in different ways. Right?
Yeah, in different ways.
So
25.